And was what we would call today a domestic terrorist group.
Why? Why would we call them domestic terrorist group?
What? Look at his face.
Because they tried to use fear and force to change political environment.
And what was the motivation for the use of fear and
It was
force?
based on race and ethnicity.
Right. Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
officers and agents.
I'm talking about perception.
She's talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel.
And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
officers and agents.
I'm talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel.
She's talking about perception. Welcome back to What TV. It's your boy Ace. Tap in, tap in, tap in. Because if you don't know, back in 2018, man, Kamala Harris was the sitting senator for California. Yes, California. This one moment that we're looking at right now, don't let it go over your head, because the video that we're going to see right now could be a big part of the reason why things can't get cleaned up at the border, because we need better control of ICE. And I'm telling you right now, Kamala Harris is a big reason why ICE can't get under control. And the people and the men and women of the border who protect our border, they don't like Kamala Harris. People in Texas who's controlling the country right now, they do not like Kamala Harris. Let's get into it.
I think, Mr. Vitello, that you would agree. Have I pronounced your name correctly?
Vitello.
Vitello.
Thank you.
I think you would agree as a member of law enforcement that law enforcement, generally speaking, and certainly it would be the case with ICE officers and agents, that a great deal of your power is discretionary. You have limited resources and you make decisions about what you're going to do, but you exercise a great deal of discretion in terms of how you're going to use the limited resources and how you're going to prioritize them. And then understanding that, I think you would also agree that one's perspective and their bias, if they have bias, will influence their exercise of discretion in terms of the power they have and how it will be used and implemented. So I want to return to the question that Senator Peters asked you about the statement you made describing the Democratic Party as liberal-cratic or neo-Klanist, which was, I think the assumption there was that you were comparing it to the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK. So you said in response to his question, you're sorry because the words caused offense. So would you not be sorry if no one was offended by your words?
I'm telling you right now, this is one of the main reasons why we have no control over the border and why ICE is a mess. She was the previous general attorney of California, and she's drilling this guy right now. You have to keep in mind, Kamala Harris knows the drillers, the killers. She's met the most dangerous men and had them in front of her in her court. And she's drilling this guy right now. He is nervous as all hell.
No, it was wrong to do.
Why was it wrong?
Because those are offensive words.
Why are they offensive?
Because they have history in this country, and I honestly did not mean it that way.
But please talk about the history. What is the history that would then make those words wrong?
Well, the Klan was what we would call today a domestic terrorist group.
Why? Why would we call them domestic terrorist group?
Because they tried to use fear and force to change political environment.
And what was the motivation for the use of fear and
It
force?
was based on race and ethnicity.
Right. Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
officers and agents.
She's talking about perception, not parallels.
I'm talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel between what is constitutionally mandated as it relates to enforcing the law.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
I see no
Are you aware that there's a
that
perception?
puts ICE in the same category as the KKK. Is that what you're asking me?
No, I'm very specific about what I'm asking you. Are you aware of a perception that the way that the discretion
I see no parallel.
I'm not finished.
I see none.
I'm not finished.
She's not finished.
I'm not finished. Are you aware that there's a perception that ICE is administering its power in a way that is causing fear and intimidation,
Yo, he's so shook right now.
particularly among immigrants, and specifically among immigrants coming from Mexico and Central America? Are you aware of that perception?
I do not see a parallel between the power and the authority that ICE has to do
Listen, stop. She's talking about perception.
its job, and the agents and officers who do it professionally and excellently with lots of compassion.
Sir, how can you be the head of an agency and be unaware of how your agency is perceived by certain communities?
There is a lot of perceptions in the media and in the public that are incorrect about the agency.
But the
and what
perception
it does.
exists, would you agree? Whether or not it's correct. And wouldn't you agree then that if that perception exists, there might need to be some work done to correct the perception?
What? Things that make you say what, people? Let me tell you. Don't let this video and moment go over your head. This was the biggest moment in why many people say we have a border crisis problem. And if you don't know, to be the head of ICE, you have to be selected. Yes, our senators have to select our border agent, okay? The director of ICE has to be selected. And many people wanted this guy, Ron Vitello, as the head of ICE. And this moment helped propel Kamala Harris into like stardom as she was preparing to run for the election in 2020, okay? This was a big moment for her. And now America, trust me, America is reaping the repercussions of this very moment. Don't let it go over your head. Let's run it.
ICE goes after people who are, it goes after MS-13 in the interior of the country, illegal aliens who are engaging in money laundering and drug trafficking. That's interior work. They're in fact saving the immigrant communities from these beasts that target them, like MS-13. So they're the ones who are, you know, helping the average American in general, certainly immigrant Americans. So her saying, so she doesn't even really know what ICE is doing. But
Yes, she does.
But
I'm
let's make
confident
it
she
clear,
does.
this is posturing for 2020.
Well, I was going to say, she knows exactly what she's doing.
I have a perception she's running for president.
But let me add that this also was exactly, it felt like the Kavanaugh hearing. And it's the same attitude, the same insulting approach, the same innuendo. Americans didn't like the
evidence.
Kavanaugh hearing. They're not going to like, if this is what they're going to continue to do for 2 years, it will backfire.
Everything
Being in El Paso, Texas just today, all captured right here on video. This massive group of migrants you see behind me, between 500 and 600 people rush past the razor wire, breaking several barriers, then charging right up to members of the Texas National Guard. Here's that now viral video circulating online today.
Burma, 6 men have been charged in connection to that brutal attack caught on camera, and the NYPD is still looking for more suspects.
See, Republicans really wasn't feeling the idea of Kamala Harris coming at the ICE director. Remember, the ICE director has to be selected, y'all. Right now, we keep on having acting ICE members. We need leadership. This is exactly why Oakland is going down. We need leadership at the top. And I'm going to show you that Republicans didn't like what Kamala Harris did.
In a jab to the Democratic Party, Texas Governor Greg Abbott literally sent a bus of 50 migrants to the residence of Biden's border czar, Vice President Kamala Harris.
What? Listen, I thought they were going to a concert. He sent the buses full of migrants to her house. He even did this on Christmas Eve. Things that make you say what? Yo, Greg Abbott is a mastermind for this. He had 2 buses Imagine a bus full of migrants pulling up to your doorstep on Christmas Eve. He had these migrants showing up for a barbecue. I know Kamala Harris was doing her thing, like, hey, the migrants pulling up like, hey, where the barbecue at? Where the chicken at? Where the glizzies at? Come on, hey. They showed up thinking that they were invited to the barbecue, but they were not.
A move he's done before to physically show the Biden administration what is happening on his doorstep. The statement read, "Until President Biden steps up and does his job, Texas will continue busing migrants to sanctuary cities to provide relief to our overwhelmed border towns."
What? We are telling you right now, the Republicans didn't like the fact that Kamala Harris had ditched their ICE agent, Ron Vitello. And right now, people want to know, why do you need another term? Why do you need another term to fix this when you couldn't fix things right now? Let's jump into
being
it.
quite high. Let's go to the border, because this is something that is in your direct wheelhouse. It has been something that you have been looked to try to accomplish what has been, frankly, a decades-long endeavor by successive presidential administrations. But there is anger on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, about an unsustainable border, what they're calling a crisis. Why can't this be accomplished during this administration?
Well, so there's
Yeah, why do you need another term?
no question that our immigration system is broken. And so much so that we, as the first bill that we offered after our inauguration, was to fix the immigration system, which included what we must do to create a pathway for citizenship and to put the resource.
Look at Laura's face. Listen, Laura tried to dial you back in this interview too. She's trying to save you, but look at Laura's face. She's like, girl.
First bill that we offered after our inauguration was to fix the immigration system, which included what we must do to create a pathway for citizenship and to put the resources that are needed into the border. But sadly, people on the other side of the aisle have been playing politics with this issue. The solutions are at hand. And, you know, gone are the days, sadly, where a President Bush or John McCain understood that we should have a bipartisan approach to fixing this problem, which is a long-standing problem.
But what are those solutions?
The solution
Yeah, what are those solutions?
includes putting resources at the border to do what we can to process people effectively,
You couldn't do that right now?
and putting in place laws that actually allow for a meaningful pathway to citizenship.
And you couldn't get that done for the DACAs. And you're looking for bipartisan support, so you need another 4 years and you couldn't get that done now? Let us know your thoughts.
And yet there's progressives who are very angry about Dreamers, about a pathway to citizenship not being included in the latest negotiations on these issues.
Well,
Why are they
I won't
gone?
speak to the current.
Look at Laura's face. Yes, why you couldn't fix the Dreamers? Listen, the Dreamers should have been fixed a long time ago. President Biden could have fixed the Dreamers because Barack Obama put that in place, okay? Now, Barack Obama put it in place and Joe Biden picked up where he left off. So why y'all couldn't fix the Dreamers and y'all got, 4 or 5 million people coming into the country? Come on. Thank you for Laura Coates for pointing this out. Let's get to it.
And putting in place laws that actually allow for a meaningful pathway to citizenship.
And yet there's progressives who are very angry about Dreamers, about a pathway to citizenship not being included in the latest negotiations on these issues.
Well,
Why are they
I won't
gone?
speak to the current negotiations and the
What?
status of the current negotiations, but I will tell you that Dreamers, under sadly some of the draconian approaches to them, have been treated very badly, and that we have to understand who our Dreamers are. First of all, in the height of the pandemic, it was so many Dreamers who were frontline workers.
It's true.
So why we couldn't fix things?
And working on saving lives.
Why we not protecting the Dreamers?
Dreamers who, many of them, before they could walk or talk, were brought into the country and have lived very productive lives, serving in our military, serving
What? So why you need another 4 years to save them?
in Fortune 500 companies. And they should be honored for the contribution they are making, and they should be protected.
So why you can't fix that now?
You've cared about this issue even before you were the vice president.
Absolutely.
It's very dear to your heart.
Yes.
And yet you look at
You cared about this before you got in, and you got in and you still can't fix it? What?
it, and if this is not something that can be accomplished now in this administration, I don't know how many bites the apple you think you'll be able to get. Have you
Exactly. Let's run that back again. You want another term? What the hell you going? Let us know your thoughts.
before you were the vice president?
Absolutely.
It's very dear to your heart.
Yes.
And yet you look at it, and if this is not something that can be accomplished now in this administration, I don't know how many bites the apple you think you'll be able to get. Have you given that some thought?
I will tell you that the negotiations that are happening right now, I hope, are going to be directed at solutions that are genuinely focused on fixing the problem, including all the equities that you mentioned.
What? Listen, man, we are done. Listen, we're done. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts. Does she need another 4 years? They couldn't even do anything for the Dreamers, and that's been put in from Barack Obama time. And you trying to tell me you need another 4 years to get things done? Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts.
Did it. We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States. Did it. We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.